Welcome back to the Silly Kitchen. We are doing a food photography series where we're really talking about the foundations and the basics of using your DSLR on manual mode, where you can have all the control and all the settings. And today we are talking about white balance. Okay, if you haven't watched aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, I recommend go back and watch those 3 videos because white balance is just a little tiny component to the final bringing of everything together. Is that a sentence? Bringing everything together in manual mode. I think that's the proper terms I wanted to say. So let's talk about white balance. On my camera, on my Canon, there's a little WB white balance button where I can push that, and then with my scroll on this side, adjust whatever white balance I want. Now, this is done in pictures. So you know how before we were talking about shutter speed and f-stop, and those are all kind of dictated by numbers. Well, your white balance is gonna have a bunch of little pictures. So it's gonna say AWB first, which is white balance, or auto white balance, sorry. So that means the camera's choosing based on everything else you've set, what kind of color and what kind of mood your photo is gonna have. So maybe I didn't start with explaining what white balance is. Your white balance is gonna set the mood and the color in your photo. So auto white balance will do it automatically and choose for you. Now, do we want to let the camera have that control? Well, sometimes. Sometimes when I'm shooting other things, when I'm outside or I'm doing, family portraits or action shots, yeah, that makes sense because maybe a cloud comes and maybe the color changes or the light changes outside. So yeah, I will admit it, I use auto white balance. But when I am working on food photography and I'm working on, product shots and stuff like that, I want to choose my white balance because then that setting is going to be exactly the same all the time. It's not going to change the color as I move and change one shot or adjust. On auto, you will notice that if you move your camera back or you zoom in or zoom out more, that color might actually change on auto. So if I look at the options here, there's all these little symbols. So there's a sun, which means sunshine. There's a house with some shade. There's a light bulb, there's a little flash. So there's a bunch of different options that you can have. And there's even one that just says K, and that stands for kilojoules, which is what color is measured on, what the temperature of color is measured on. So what does that really mean and what does it translate into photos? Cool and warm is the easiest way to explain it. So if you want more of those bluer, whiter, lighter gray tones, that's gonna be one type of setting. And then the other spectrum is that warm, kind of orange, gold, that kind of soft, well, sometimes really orange is really orange, but that kind of more softer, warmer, sunshiny look that you might get in a photo. And every preset that you have on there with either the sunshine or the shade or that, it's gonna have a different kilojoule number kind of attached to it. And the best thing I can tell you is play with it. Take a shot with the sunshine, then take the same shot with the shade and see what that color difference looks like in your camera. Because I'm not gonna sit there and remember and go, oh, the kilojoules on sunshine is this or this. And it's gonna be a complete preference to what you like. Do you like warmer photos or do you like cooler photos? Or do you want that perfect balance in the middle? You can set the kilojoule number to whatever you want on that K setting, and you can actually see it in your camera as it changes, especially when I'm doing video for something like this. If the sun is shining really bright in my window, that might be a very orangey color, and I have kind of orange lights in behind me, so I want a cooler kind of feel and look in some of my videos instead of having like orange skin, right? So that's kind of what white balance means. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, use the sunshine every time or use a certain kilojoule number. Play with it and have a look. So I did a series of shots on the exact same thing, but I just literally changed the white balance as I went. So let me show you that series of photos, and you can kind of see the color and the mood change as you go into each setting. And there's lots of them, and there's lots to play with and practice with, but that's kind of the one last thing that I would tell you about on your manual mode when you are shooting your food photos is get your settings right, get your lighting, get that focus that you want, and then let's take a look at color and make sure that the right kind of tone is coming out in your photos. Make sense? Yay! So now we've learned about your f-stop, aka your aperture, your shutter speed. We talked about ISO and white balance. So now you're ready to put it all together and play. Let's take a look at this photo, which is gonna be in the next video, and I'll show you exactly what I did, how I set it up, what lighting I used, and what settings I used on my camera to get this result. See you in the next video.